Today, I put LeBron, Bronny, and Bryce in the 2024 NBA Draft, and we're going to be simulating their entire careers to see who can win more NBA championships. LeBron James comes in as the best player in this draft class, but to even out the playing field, I've given the entire James family LeBron's potential. So that means that Bryce James could become as good as LeBron in this video. And the same thing goes for Bronny James. Bronny and Bryce will start off as lower overalls than LeBron, but as the years go on, they should be able to catch up. And also, I forced current LeBron to retire from the league, so that way there won't be two LeBron Jameses in the same NBA. With all that talking out of the way, let's get to the NBA draft. With the first overall pick in the 2024 draft, the Charlotte Hornets select LeBron James. He's teaming up with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. With the 6th overall pick, Bryce James is headed to Detroit. He's going to be teaming up with Cade Cunningham. And at 7th, Bronny James is teaming up with Wembanyama. All of these players are joining young, up-and-coming teams that they will have the opportunity to grow and develop with. Here's what LeBron's squad is looking like in Charlotte. Here's what the Pistons are looking like after adding Bryce James into the mix. And then here are the San Antonio Spurs. Wemby is a 93 headed into year 2. Let's get into season number 1, the James family's rookie year. Season number 1 is wrapped. Of course, Luka won MVP, and LeBron James takes home the rookie of the year, averaging 25, 6, and 7, along with 2 steals and 2 blocks as a rookie. Also, Wemby, Bronny's teammate, won DPOY, and LeBron made All-NBA second team as a rookie. Checking in on Bronny and Bryce, Bronny ended up starting at the point guard spot in San Antonio, averaging about 11 points and 6 assists, but unfortunately, they didn't make the playoffs. They only won 35 games. Bryce James's Pistons ended up missing out on the play-in tournament with 37 wins on the year, but Bryce averaged about 12 points, 5 boards, and 2 assists. He was also a starter, so a solid start to his NBA career. And LeBron James made it into the play-in with the Hornets. Let's see if Charlotte can get the job done and make the playoffs. Okay, they're gonna make it in, and in round number 1, they're taking on Toronto. Not exactly the craziest 2-seeded team. They did pick up James Harden, which is interesting, but I think the Hornets match up pretty well with this Raptors team. It's a 2-2 series after 4 games. Hornets will take game 5, and they end up winning in 6, so LeBron is moving on to the second round in his rookie year. Next up, we got the Atlanta Hawks. If Bron could make the conference finals year 1, that would be legendary. And so far, this is a competitive series against Atlanta. We're all tied up at 2 apiece, headed into game 5, so we're going to jump in the Simcast and see if Bron can get this big game 5 win. Unfortunately, the Hawks get the best of the Hornets despite LeBron's 54 in this game. James is turning it up as just a rookie, averaging 31, 7, and 7 in the NBA playoffs. This is ridiculous. I can't believe he lost putting up that stat line. We'll see if the Hornets can force 7 and they end up losing in 6. I'm not gonna blame Bron for this one at all. He was hooping. Now, I know in the first year, LeBron James kind of stole a lot of the spotlight from both of his sons, but don't worry, they're gonna be getting better fast. Bryce James is up to a 79 overall in Detroit, but the Pistons actually lost Cade Cunningham. That's a huge loss for the Pistons, I mean, obviously, but maybe that gives Bryce an opportunity for more touches. Over in San Antonio, Bronny went up 7 overalls. He's up to a 78. They also picked up Ace Bailey, who's usually super good in these sims. Trey Johnson is also usually good, so they're building something really nice over in San Antonio. As for Bron, he's up to an 89 overall. LaMelo's getting better. Brandon Miller's getting better. Charlotte looks really good, coming off of their playoff run where they surprised a lot of people, making it to the second round. Let's get into season number 2. I'm ready to see our guys contribute in an even bigger way. Let me tell you guys, year 2 was special, not just for LeBron James, but also for Bronny and Bryce. Wembanyama won DPOY in San Antonio. Asar Thompson was 6th man of the year in Detroit. LeBron made All-NBA second team as he put up pretty similar numbers to his first year. LeBron also made All-Defensive first team. But what I'm really excited to show you guys is the team success from all of our teams. The Charlotte Hornets won 60 games. They were the 1 seed. The Pistons were the 2 seed, and Bryce James took a huge leap, averaging 19 points and 8 rebounds. And the Spurs out west were the 3 seed, winning 56 games. Unfortunately for Bronny, he came off the bench this season as the Spurs picked up Terry Rozier. But by next season, I have no doubt that Bronny will be better than Rozier. But because he was in a smaller role, his numbers weren't exactly crazy. The efficiency did go up though. So let's get into these playoffs. I think at least one of our teams can make the finals. They're all going to make it out of round 1, but in round 2, Bryce is going to lose and Bronny also loses. Meanwhile, LeBron James is battling against Cleveland. He's down 3-2 after 5 games, but he's going to force 7. The Cavaliers with Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and Allen are going to be tough to beat, but LeBron is going to be able to do it. 19-10 in this one. Not exactly a crazy game, but his teammates had his back. Shout out to Naz Reid. And the Charlotte Hornets are moving on to the conference finals where they'll be taking on Indiana. Game 1 of the series goes to the Pacers. They also take game 2. Hornets will take game 3 and 4, and they're also going to take game 5. The Pacers bounce back and take game 6. So it all comes down to this: win or go home, game 7. And unfortunately, the Charlotte Hornets are gonna go down. But LeBron James was so close to making a finals appearance in just his 2nd season. And Bryce James was really good in his playoff debut for the Pistons. Bronny James was also good in a limited role. With the Hornets, Pistons, and Spurs all having so much young talent, I expect them all to be contenders again in this upcoming season. LeBron is up to a 92 in Charlotte. Bryce James is up to an 84 for the Detroit Pistons. And for the Spurs, I told y'all Bronny was going to get a lot better. He's up to an 83, and his teammates are improving rapidly as well. Let's get into season number 3. I'd love to see one of the members of the James family win a ring this season. We get it, Luka. You're so great at basketball. It's actually annoying. Wembanyama wins the Defensive Player of the Year again. LeBron makes All-NBA first team for the Hornets. Numbers did go up quite a bit this year. And Bryce makes All-NBA third team, averaging 22 a night over in Detroit. Also, LeBron was on All Defense. And again, it was a dominant year from the James family. The Pistons won 53 games. The Spurs ended up winning 58 as Bronny averaged 15-7, far and away the best season of his career so far. And the Hornets won 50 games. So we've got a bunch of contenders here. The Hornets also managed to trade for DeJounte, which is crazy. They traded Naz Reid and Grant Williams for DeJounte in a second. That's a good trade. Anyways, let's get into the playoffs. I'm assuming all of our teams will make it out of round number 1, and they are all going to make it. Now we've got San Antonio taking on Houston, Charlotte taking on Indiana, and Detroit taking on Philly. And we've got 2 game 7s. San Antonio with Bronny is headed to a game 7, and then the Pistons with Bryce are headed to game 7. We're going to check out this one first with the Houston Rockets taking on the Spurs. They still got Terry Rozier starting over Bronny. Man, San Antonio doesn't know ball. But that's alright. Bronny can be like Ginobili for San Antonio and help them win this game 7. Shout out to the Spurs. They get the game 7 dub. Bronny with 16 points. And they're going to be moving on to the conference finals. The Hornets take care of the Pacers in 6, so they're going to the conference finals. And then we've got Bryce headed to a game 7 against Philly. If Bryce and the Pistons win this one, then we'll have a LeBron versus Bryce matchup, and it looks like we're going to get exactly that. James didn't have a crazy game, but it was enough. And now our conference finals are set. We've got Pistons, Hornets, Bryce versus Bron. And then we've got Spurs versus Mavericks. Bronny James is now in the starting lineup, and he's gonna have a tough task trying to guard Luka. Detroit is cooking Charlotte. Bryce might just go to the finals, and he's gonna do it. Bryce is gonna win against his dad in game 5, and he's going to the finals. Unfortunately for Bronny, it looks like he's about to lose. Unless the Spurs can do something crazy, they might just come back down 3-1. Can the Spurs do something special and pull off this comeback? Nah, they got cooked in Game 7. Bronny had a decent playoffs, but his Spurs are going to go down. Meanwhile, Bryce James is continuing his run. Look at the numbers he's hooping. I mean, you got to be doing big things to beat LeBron in the playoffs, and Bryce did that to make sure his squad punched their ticket to the finals. Now, this Pistons squad honestly doesn't have a crazy team on paper, but they just went through Bron, LaMelo, and Brandon Miller, so I feel like they could go through Luka as well. Game 1 of the series goes to the Pistons. Game 2 will go to the Mavs. Pistons take Game 3, Mavs take Game 4, so we're all tied up headed into Game 5. And the Mavs are gonna get a pretty big win. This was just a bad game, except for this dude Kevin, who dropped 23, but the Pistons just kind of struggled overall. Bryce shot 5 of 20, and now he could lose right here in Game 6. The Mavs are going to take him down and win the championship. Great effort from Bryce James. Unfortunately, he just came up short. We're 3 seasons in and all of our guys are ringless, but they're progressing quickly and they've made some deep playoff runs, so I've got hope for sure. Over in San Antonio, Bronny's up to an 88 and LeBron's up to a 94 in Charlotte. We should be in for another great year from the James family. Let's get into it. LeBron James takes home an MVP in just his 4th season as he averages 24, 9, and 8. Wembanyama wins another DPOY. Bryce James makes 2nd team, taking another leap in terms of scoring. And Bronny has yet to make All-NBA. Hopefully that'll come for him soon. But I don't know if Bronny's too worried about that because his Spurs won 65 games. He had a great year averaging 16 and 8, and they were the 1 seed. The Hornets were also the 1 seed over in the Eastern Conference as LeBron was the MVP. And Bryce's Pistons fell off after making the finals. Only 42 wins. The Pistons do manage to make it out of the play-in though, so they'll be taking on the Hornets in round 1. LeBron versus Bryce. And the Hornets absolutely cooked the Pistons. Last year, the Pistons beat the Hornets to advance to the finals. I don't know what happened to them. Also over in the West, San Antonio made easy work of Utah. Oh man, both Bronny and LeBron are cooking so far in these playoffs. They have yet to lose a game. That might change for Bronny as he's going to be taking on Ja Morant and the Grizzlies. And for LeBron, he's taking on the Wizards who have Collier and Cade. And both of these series are going 7. We're going to check out the Wizards and Hornets one first. Then we'll go over to the West and check out the Spurs game 7. It looks like the Wizards get the best of LeBron and the Hornets. We have yet to see Bron in the finals. Hopefully Bronny can make it. Bronny and Wemby are gonna have to fight for this one. It's coming down to the wire. Less than 2 minutes to go here, and the Spurs are down by 1. Bronny is not currently checked in the game, but he isn't fouled out, so I'd assume he's coming in soon. For now, Terry Rozier's running the show for the Spurs. He's gonna give it down to Wemby for a dunk. Great assist from Rozier, and now we are up by 1. Does Ja Morant have an answer for the Grizzlies? He's working on Terry Rozier, trying to go to the basket, steps back, and misses the jumper. It's rebounded by Wembanyama. Wemby gonna swing it up to Rozier. Now it goes to Johnson for a 3, and he misses it. It's rebounded by Duren, and now the ball goes back to Morant. Morant gonna swing it over to Alexander Sarr, who is a top prospect in the 2024 class. Now the ball goes back to Morant. He fakes, and Wembanyama sends his shot. Now the ball's gonna go to Johnson. Johnson gives it over to Rozier. Rozier down to Wemby, and Wemby dunks on Ja. Wembanyama is giving Ja nightmares in this game 7. Does Morant have any answer here in the clutch? We're about to find out. He's gonna take a midi and miss. Wemby gets the board. Now he's playing some point center, getting in his bag. He dimes it to Sarr, who gets fouled. And that might just do it. The dominance of Wembanyama in the clutch might just lead the Spurs to the NBA Finals unless something crazy happens. I mean, Sarr did just miss a foul shot. If the Grizzlies hit this 3, we might be... Oh, no! We've got a game now, man. It is a 1-point game. 24 seconds to go, and we're going to be sending Bronny to the foul line. Come on, Bronny, we need both of these. First one is good. Second one for James is also good, so we're up 3. Koa Pete is going to give it into Ja Morant. Grizzlies in need of a three-pointer now. Morant is defended by James. Ja trying to make something happen. He's been cold in the clutch. He dimes it to Sarr, who is rejected by Wemby. Wembanyama is a force to be reckoned with. And with James's free throw, we're out of here. We get the win. We're moving on to the NBA Finals. And in the finals, we've got the Washington Wizards, who just took down Bron and the Hornets. Game 1 of the series goes to us. Game 2 also goes to us. Oh my goodness, Bronny James is an NBA champion. Him and Wemby were hooping in these playoffs. So Bronny is the first member of the James family to win an NBA championship. But both LeBron and Bryce James have solid squads around them, so they'll have a chance to try and match Bronny's chip this season. Let's see if they can do it. Coming off the championship, Wembanyama wins MVP this season, and LeBron is gonna take home a DPOY. Also, the Spurs won 70 games. Bronny might be on a super team, man, but we also had a few members of the James family on All-NBA first team. There's LeBron, and there's Bryce, who's become a scoring machine in this simulation. Also, Bronny makes All-NBA second team, a huge leap for him in year 5, averaging 22 and 11. Bronny was even all defense. This year, the Pistons won 46 games, Spurs won 70, and Hornets won 45. So there's one team that obviously stands above the rest, and that's San Antonio. Now we'll see if the Pistons and Hornets can surprise us, but it looks like they're both gonna get eliminated. So now we're just watching out for Bronny. Can he repeat and win another ring? So far, the Spurs have made their way to the conference finals easily, but they've got a challenge coming up, the Thunder. This team is always good in the sim, so you know they're gonna give the Spurs some comp. But the Spurs take care of them in 6, so they're moving on to the finals against Chicago. And with all due respect, this team sucks. Game 1 of the series goes to San Antonio. They also take Game 2 and Game 3. And the Spurs sweep the finals once again to win another championship. Bronny James is getting better and better, and the team around him is incredible. He's got 2 rings. LeBron and Bryce need to get on the board, start winning some championships, because so far Bronny is dominating in terms of rings. And the Hornets have such a good team. I don't know how they haven't even made the finals yet. And as for the Pistons, I can kind of understand it, I guess. I think that Bryce probably has the worst supporting cast out of the 3 guys. But still, these players are all superstars. They should be leading their teams to championships. Wemby wins another MVP award. LeBron wins DPOY. And the Spurs were super good again. Bron was All-NBA first team. Bronny and Bryce were All-NBA second team. Bronny continues to be really great, and so does Bryce. He put up almost 30 a night this season. Unfortunately for Bryce, though, the Pistons were trash. They only won 36 games, but they did end up making it into the play-in as a 10 seed. As I mentioned, the Spurs were good, and the Hornets were also a play-in team. So we'll see if LeBron and Bryce can make the playoffs. And LeBron ends up making it, but Bryce doesn't. Now, LeBron's still gonna have a tough time as his 7-seeded Hornets are taking on the 2-seeded Celtics. But he's going to a Game 7 here, and he ends up winning. Okay, Bron. So Bron and the Hornets are headed into round 2. Bronny and the Spurs are also headed into the second round. And LeBron's gonna take care of the Heat in 6. Meanwhile, Bronny's going to a Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors. But Bronny makes easy work of the dubs. It is a 45-point win in this one. 36 for Wembanyama, 25 and 11 from Bronny. He's averaging almost 30 a night in these playoffs, 12 and a half assists. Wow. And now our conference finals are set. It's San Antonio versus OKC for the second year in a row. And then we've got the Hornets taking on the Magic. And oh my goodness, LeBron comes out of the play-in tournament and makes it all the way to the finals. Meanwhile, the Spurs have a Game 7 battle against the Thunder to try and advance to the finals. We'll see if Bronny can make it to face his dad. It looks like he's going to. Bronny and the Spurs get a Game 7 win as Bronny James is named Western Conference MVP. LeBron is named Eastern Conference MVP. So we get a father-son matchup in these finals. Game 1 of the series goes to Charlotte. Game 2 goes to San Antonio. The Spurs also take Game 3 and Game 4. And the Spurs win in 5, a three-peat as Bronny wins Finals MVP. Bronny has been dominant in this video. LeBron tried his best, but it wasn't enough. Heading into season number 7, Bryce's Pistons supporting cast looks terrible. The Spurs still look great, and the Hornets still look great as well. Bronny's going for his 4th in a row. We'll see if he can win it this year. Man, Bronny James is solidifying himself in this video as a superstar. He just won MVP. LeBron wins another DPOY, and the Spurs won 72 games. LeBron and Bryce need to lock in so that they can get on the board with at least one championship. The entire James family made the All-NBA first team this year, which is really cool. But the Pistons and Hornets, they were kind of trash again in terms of team success. The Pistons do make it out the play-in, and they will be in the playoffs, so we'll see what they can do. The Pistons get eliminated, so do the Hornets, so the last man standing in the playoffs once again is Bronny James. He makes it to the conference finals easily. Oh my gosh, he's about to go back to the finals. No way Bronny goes for 4 in a row. He's taking on Chicago here. Didn't he face him at least once before? They do look a lot better than last time. Are they going to be good enough to beat Bronny though? I guess we're about to find out. Spurs up 2-0 early. They're up 3-0 and they sweep the finals. Bronny, finals MVP. I'm speechless, man. Bronny James is incredible. And also, if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate if you considered subscribing. We're trying to hit 100K by the end of the year. Spurs still look incredible. We'll see if LeBron can finally do something. And Bryce's Pistons kind of suck. Now, I do want to note that Bryce only has 2 years left on his deal, so maybe he'll leave. LeBron only has 1 year left on his deal, so he can become a free agent next summer. And Bronny has 2 years on his contract, but I don't see why he'd leave San Antonio. Bronny James goes back-to-back on MVP awards. LeBron wins his millionth DPOY in a row, and the Spurs win 70 games. The Hornets were kind of trash, and the Pistons were really trash. Hornets were a play-in team, and they don't even make it into the playoffs. So Bronny's the only guy in the playoffs this year. He's trying to win his 5th ring in a row. But the Houston Rockets might stop him. The Spurs were down 3-1, and they end up losing in 6 to Cooper Flagg and the Rockets. Bronny's reign of dominance over the league finally ends as the Knicks win the championship. And I thought LeBron would be a free agent this summer, but he signed an extension to stay with the Hornets. Now, Bryce does only have 1 year left on his deal, so he might leave Detroit. I wouldn't blame him. This team sucks. Spurs are still stacked as usual. Bronny only has a year on his contract. What if he leaves? That'd be crazy. And the Hornets still have a really solid squad as well. Let's see if Bronny can win his 3rd MVP in a row this season. Bronny James might be building up a case to become the GOAT at the rate he's going. He's doing incredible stuff. LeBron another DPOY, 74 wins for the San Antonio Spurs. Bryce James continues to get buckets, and this year the Pistons were actually a little bit better, winning 45 games. They were the 3 seed. Hornets were absolutely trash. They ended up making the play-in as the 10 seed, and they don't even make the playoffs. So we've got Detroit and San Antonio in the playoffs this year. Pistons and Spurs make it out of round 1. Pistons and Spurs both make the conference finals. All right, here we go. I think that Bronny and the Spurs will be able to take care of this Warriors team pretty easily. And I think that Bryce and the Pistons will have a chance against Boston, but it's definitely a tough team. The Pistons end up losing in 6, and the Spurs win in 6. Bronny is back in the finals. And the Spurs sweep the Celtics to win another ring. 5 rings, 3 MVPs for Bronny James. He is outshining Wembanyama in San Antonio. And this summer, Bryce James is hitting free agency, and it looks like he's gonna stay in Detroit. I thought there was a chance he would leave, but I guess I was wrong. I wish he would have left though, because the Pistons are trash. Spurs are still stacked as usual, and the Hornets might be getting a little old. Let's get into another season and see if somebody has an answer for Bronny's dominance. Bronny James, another MVP. LeBron, another DPOY. LeBron, Bronny, and Bryce were all on first team this season. Spurs were the 1 seed as usual. Hornets won 50 games, so they might be back, and the Pistons suck. In round 1, the Spurs are going to be taking on the Warriors. Hornets have the Bucks, and the Hornets end up losing, coming off of a pretty successful regular season. Meanwhile, the Spurs are cooking. They make their way back to the finals, where they'll be taking on Indiana. I think Bronny has this one. I'm pretty confident. Yeah, it's another sweep. Bronny wins another chip and another finals MVP. DeJounte Murray retired, so the Hornets just lost an important piece. Here's what the Pistons are looking like going into another season. Spurs, again, are really good, and the Hornets, after losing DeJounte, look a little weaker. We'll see if somebody besides Bronny can win a championship this year. Somebody stopped Bronny. Cam Boozer wins the MVP award this year, and LeBron wins DPOY. Bryce James, Clutch Player of the Year. Good stuff from Bryce. Is Bronny falling off? No All-NBA first team. He does make second team. Yeah, numbers drop down a little bit. Now, the Spurs were still dominant as usual. Hornets were a play-in team, and the Pistons made the playoffs. Hornets don't make the playoffs through the play-in tournament, which sucks. And the Pistons lose in the first round. San Antonio, of course, is not going to lose in the first round. Their run is continuing all the way to the finals, where they're taking on Washington. I mean, the Wizards have the MVP, Cam Boozer. You can't underestimate him. Game 1 goes to the Spurs. Game 2 goes to the Spurs. I have never seen a team this dominant in a simulation in a long time. 7 championships for Bronny in 11 years pro. Like, you've got to be kidding me. And the Spurs somehow managed to keep this whole team together year after year, so they're just going to continue to be dominant. LeBron's got a year left on his deal. The Hornets are getting old. I think it's time for him to go. And Bryce is kind of just trapped here in Detroit because he has 3 years left on his contract. Let's get into another season. I'm sure it'll end with a Bronny championship, right? This season, Wembanyama said it's my turn. He went ahead and won an MVP. Wemby also won DPOY. And the Spurs, 64 wins. Bryce James made All-NBA first team, LeBron made second team, and Bronny made third team. Pistons won 40 games on the season, no play-in tournament, and the Hornets barely made it into the play-in with 42 wins. But the Hornets will not get a playoff spot. So we're watching Bronny James and seeing if he can win another ring. This time he loses in 7 to the Grizzlies. Somebody finally stopped Bronny. Now, James does only have 1 year left on his contract with the Spurs, so maybe there's a chance he leaves. I mean, I'm just not sure if the Spurs have the money to keep all these players. LeBron has 3 years left in Charlotte, which is tragic because, oh my goodness. And Bryce has 2 years left in Detroit, where they probably won't be winning anything. So let's get into another season. Guess what? Bronny's back, another MVP. LeBron wins DPOY. And the Spurs, 61 wins. LeBron, Bronny, and Bryce end up all making the All-NBA first team. And Bronny got a 4-year extension to stay with the Spurs. San Antonio knows how to build a dynasty, and they know how to keep it together. Because, wow, I'm surprised they've been able to keep all these players around throughout so many seasons. But we do have to watch out for the Pistons this year. They went 41-41 and have a chance at the playoffs, and they're going to make it as the 8th seed. In round number 1, they're taking on Miami. San Antonio is taking on the T-Wolves, and unfortunately, the Pistons will lose. But San Antonio's making it deep in the playoffs again. They might be back in the finals. Yep, they are. They're going to be taking on the Atlanta Hawks. This is actually a really good Hawks team, but I doubt that they're better than the Spurs team. It's actually tied up at 2 apiece after 4 games. The Spurs will take game 5. Hawks take game 6. The Spurs are in a game 7 here in the finals. But y'all really thought they were going to go down in a big game? They've been here and done that. They are an experienced team that has made so many runs to the finals. So they had to come through in the big game. They ended up blowing out the Hawks by 39. Wembanyama won finals MVP. Spurs still look stacked headed into another season. It's important to note, though, 3 of their key guys are on the last year of their deals. So it'll be interesting to see if the Spurs can bring everybody back. Brandon Miller's down to an 82 for the Hornets. LaMelo's down to an 87, and he's on the last year of his deal. And the Pistons just signed an old Gigi Jackson to a big contract. I don't know what the Hornets and Pistons front offices have been doing during this video, man. They have been dropping the ball completely. Another season in the books. AJ DeBonsta wins the MVP award. LeBron wins DPOY, and Bryce wins Clutch Player of the Year. Bryce was on All-NBA first team, LeBron was on second team, and so was Bronny. And this season, the Pistons surprised me. They're back in the playoffs, 47 wins. They ended up actually making a trade for Evan Mobley, who's averaging a mean triple-single, but he is an 88 overall, so not a bad player to add at all. And they gave up Herb Maggette and a first. I don't even know who that is, so I guess that's a good trade for Detroit. They also picked up this dude Dane Hurley on a minimum deal, so the Pistons, to their credit, were at least trying to do something to help out the squad. We'll see if that's enough to lead them deep into the playoffs. It isn't. They lost in the first round. San Antonio's in the conference finals again. They're down 3-2 to the Warriors, and they're going to force 7. Wow, this is a good Warriors team. Like, I really think they could give the Spurs some trouble here in Game 7. We'll see how it goes. Never mind, I forgot this team is the greatest dynasty I've ever witnessed in 2K. I've seen the Thunder CPU put together some ridiculous teams, but I don't think it's a stretch to say this is one of the craziest teams ever in the 2K simulation. You're talking about 8 championships in 14 seasons, and there's actually a chance to get 9, right? And we gotta talk about Bronny's resume. 5 MVPs, 5 finals MVPs. That is ridiculous. Next up, the Spurs have the Hawks. They're not as good as that Warriors team they just beat, so San Antonio's probably got this one. Never mind. Oh my gosh, Atlanta is gonna take them down in 5. I owe the Hawks an apology. I wasn't familiar with their game. They took San Antonio down in just 5 games. Checking in on the Hornets, they're super old, but LeBron has 1 year on his deal. It'd be really cool to see him enter free agency. Bryce is now on a 5-year deal with the Pistons. Why would he do that? And the Spurs, they managed to keep all their guys. They're still as insane as usual. Let's get into another season. We're about to enter 2039. If you're still watching, comment 2039 down below. Bronny did it again. I'm ready to say it. He's the greatest of all time. LeBron wins DPOY, and the Spurs, 64 wins. Bronny and Bryce both made All-NBA first team. Bryce has been so good. It sucks that the Pistons have wasted his incredible talent all these years. Man, this is the first year in a minute all our teams are in the playoffs. The Hornets made it with 43 wins, the Pistons made it with 46, and the Spurs were the 1 seed out west with 64. Also, there was a rule change that removed the play-in, so I think that's important to note as well. The Pistons ended up losing in the first round, and the Hornets actually made it out of round 1. But it looks like they're gonna lose in the second round here, unless they might just come back. No, they end up losing in Game 7. So San Antonio is still remaining. They're going back to the finals, where they'll be taking on Atlanta. We've seen the Spurs and Hawks go at it before. They faced off last year, where the Hawks won, and the Hawks might do it again unless the Spurs come back. All right, we've got a Game 7 coming up here. San Antonio versus Atlanta. And the Spurs are going to lose in this one. Atlanta takes a 13-point dub. 2 finals L's in a row for San Antonio. In other news, LeBron James is an unrestricted free agent, and he's finally gonna leave Charlotte. It looks like he's going to Portland. Oh, LeBron changed his mind or something. He ended up going to the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics are decent. They've got some good young talent like this Joe Wall dude who seems to be improving quickly. They've got a couple players who are about 90 overall. Yeah, maybe Bron could do something. And this offseason, Cade Cunningham came back to Detroit. He was in Boston, but I guess the Celtics used the money to sign LeBron, so now Cade is back on the Pistons. And the Spurs are still insane, although Wemby and Bronny are starting to regress a little bit. I think this year's about to be crazy. We might see LeBron, Bronny, and Bryce all on legitimate contenders. Bronny, another MVP. LeBron wins DPOY over in Boston, and let me tell y'all, the Celtics were hooping. Bryce James wins Clutch Player of the Year for the Pistons. Bronny and Bryce were both first team, LeBron was third team. The Spurs won 63 games, the Celtics won 48, which was good enough for the 1 seed in a weak East. And the Pistons missed the playoffs. I thought they'd be way better with adding Cade. But anyways, let's get into these playoffs. Celtics and Spurs make it out of round 1 easily. The Spurs make easy work of the Grizz in round 2, but the Celtics are struggling. They end up losing in 5. Bryce and LeBron just don't have the same amount of dog in them as Bronny does. Bronny just continues to make finals appearance after finals appearance. This year, it's going to be the New York Knicks. And the Knicks are cooked. They're down 3-1. No way they come back. The Spurs win in 6. Bronny James is finals MVP. Cade Cunningham just retired from the Pistons. Oh, man. Poor Bryce. Spurs are starting to get old, but last year that didn't affect them. Spurs are starting to get a little bit old. Celtics kind of are too. And oh my goodness, the Pistons did it! They got Bryce some help. Clyde McMillan, 98 overall big man, is joining this team. Oh, they might be in business. Bryce finally has another player he can rely on. We've got a great 1-2 punch here in Detroit. I'm excited to see how this season goes for the Pistons, man. Bronny did it again. LeBron another DPOY. By the way, LeBron has 12 Defensive Player of the Years. And of course, Gabriel Weber, coach of the Spurs, wins Coach of the Year, 64 wins on the season. Bryce makes first team alongside Bronny, and LeBron makes third team. Pistons won 50 games. Maybe Bryce can finally do something. They also picked up VJ Edgecombe on a minimum, which is huge. Spurs won 64, and the Celtics didn't make the playoffs at all. The Pistons are going to make it out of round 1, so will San Antonio. And the Pistons also make it out of round 2. The Spurs do the same. So now the Spurs will be taking on the Warriors in the conference finals. And the Pistons are taking on the Miami Heat. Oh my gosh, Bryce is about to lose. They were down 3-1 and they lose in 6. Of course, Bronny's back in the finals, but I wanted to see Bryce make it, man. And now we've got Bronny and Wemby along with Trey Johnson and Ace Bailey taking on the Heat. It's a 2-2 series after 4. Spurs will win game 5 and 6. They're champions again. Bronny is now 35 years old and his Spurs teammates are old as well. LeBron is 36 and on the final year of his deal with the Celtics. And Bryce is 36 as well. We might not have many more seasons left. Let's get into another one. Bronny did it again, another MVP, and LeBron wins another DPOY. Spurs won 73 games. Pistons won 44, and the Celtics won 48. Let's just watch the greatest dynasty in 2K history win another ring. Pistons lose in round 1, Celtics lose in round 2. But of course the Spurs are still going. Bronny is back in the finals, and he sweeps the Cavs. 31-13 to win another chip. After Bronny won another championship, LeBron James is set to enter free agency. But it looks like he's re-signing in Boston. I mean, the Celtics look okay, but they don't really have a second star next to LeBron. Bryce might just be too old. And the Spurs are getting older, but that hasn't slowed him down just yet. We'll see if this is the year where San Antonio finally starts slowing down. Shout out to Jake Irving winning MVP, but this year was a surprise. LeBron won DPOY, you know, as usual and everything. The Spurs were good. We're used to that, right? But we saw the Pistons make the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference this year. Bryce's numbers were down, but the supporting cast around him was really good. Like usual, Spurs were the #1 seed, blah, 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 right? But the Celtics were the #2 seed. So finally, Bryce and LeBron have an actual chance to contend. They're both going to make it out of the first round, and they're both going to make the conference finals. Meanwhile, the Spurs are over here taking on Denver, but I want to focus in on this Celtics versus Pistons series. One of LeBron or Bryce is going to make it to the finals, so we'll have to see who it is. It looks like it's going to be Bryce. He sweeps LeBron to advance to the finals, and they're going to be taking on Bronny and the Spurs. Here we go. Game number 1 of the series goes to the Pistons. Spurs will take game 2. Pistons take game 3. Spurs take game 4. Pistons take game 5. And the Spurs win game 6. So we're all tied up, headed into a win or go home. Game 7. Bryce looking to get ring number 1. Bronny looking to get ring number 1 million. And it looks like Bronny's going to add another to his collection. I was rooting for Bryce to win in this one, but unfortunately he couldn't do it. Wembanyama wins Finals MVP, and Bronny now has 12 championships. None of our guys are retiring just yet though, so let's keep it pushing. Bronny and Bryce are free agents this summer, so we'll see if they stand pat or head to a new team. It looks like Bryce is going to stay loyal to the team that drafted him, and LeBron doesn't really have any good offers just yet. Bronny returns to the Celtics, and Bryce, in a surprise move, is headed to Dallas. Here's what the Spurs are looking like headed into this season. They look really old and everybody's on 1-year contracts. Celtics still look pretty good. And I don't know why Bryce left the Pistons. He finally had a good thing going. He made it to the finals and he just wanted to leave. Like, this Mavs team is not good. But whatever, let's get to another season. Another MVP for Bronny James at the age of 38. LeBron finally didn't win DPOY. Bryce made second team this year in Dallas, and LeBron made third team with the Celtics. And the whole James family will be contending this year once again. LeBron and the Celtics were really good this season with 58 wins. The Mavs were okay with 45 wins, and of course the Spurs were really good. The Mavs lost in round 1, but the Spurs and Celtics both made the conference finals. And it looks like we're going to get a Bronny versus LeBron face-off here in the NBA Finals. We'll see if LeBron can finally get his first championship. Game 1 of the series goes to the Spurs. Spurs also take game 2 and 3, and they end up sweeping the Celtics. LeBron said, "I've seen enough." He retires. Wembanyama also retires, and Bryce retires. So that's where we're going to call the video. Bronny James built up the greatest resume of all time with 13 rings and 10 MVPs. LeBron James built up a Chris Paul-like resume with 0 championships, but he did win 14 DPOYs. And Bryce James was a great scorer, but could never win a chip. Bryce James finished 3rd all-time in scoring. LeBron finished 6th. Ignore the LeBron in 2nd. That's real life LeBron. And Bronny was 8th. Bronny was 2nd all-time in 3-pointers made. Bryce was 5th. Bronny also finished 2nd in assists. And LeBron finished 10th. LeBron was also number 1 in NBA history in steals, while Bronny was 4th. And that's it for the video. Have a great day. Be sure to like and subscribe.